Today we're going to be talking about 8 truths that conventional medicine is keeping from you in order for you to get your life and your health back. So this information is stuff that I really wish I had known when I was on my own journey with Graves' disease. You know, it's taken me many, many years, and then of course working with thousands of patients to really put together the pieces and understand some things that definitely nobody was ever telling me when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune condition. And if you aren't familiar, I was diagnosed with Graves', and that can be found in any of my books, The Thyroid Connection, The Autoimmune Solution, or The Autoimmune Solution Cookbook. I walk through my story with autoimmunity. So if you're new to me, those are great resources. But the first truth that conventional medicine is not sharing with you is so important, and that is that autoimmune diseases can be reversed. So I see this day in and day out in my clinic, and just hop onto Amazon. You'll see all kinds of reviews there of people who've read my books, done my programs, and they have reversed their autoimmune disease just by following one of my books or the programs in my books. So in my books, I also talk about something called the autoimmune spectrum. There at the one end, there's no disease, no inflammation, to more inflammation, all the way up to full-blown autoimmunity. So the one thing is that you can get back down this spectrum. I've done it. Thousands upon thousands of people around the world have done it as well. We'll talk about how, you know, sometimes some things like I had an exposure to toxic mold might cause you to move up, something that's out of your control, but you can move back down it as well. So you have the power to reverse an autoimmune condition by following the steps in my programs, which are using dietary and lifestyle changes in order to get your life back. And it absolutely is possible. The second truth is you can absolutely have an excellent quality of life after an autoimmune diagnosis. So I'm living proof. There are tens of thousands of people literally who followed the Myers way who are living proof as well. People send me success stories. People write comments on Facebook. They send me messages, Instagram, and then of course all the reviews on the books. You'll see people who followed programs and gotten their lives back. So people send me their success stories. They're living pain-free. Their hair's not falling out. They're losing the weight. They have their energy. They've gone back to work. They've gone back to living their passions. They've gone back to playing with their children or their grandchildren. So it's super duper important to know and to have faith that you can get your life back and get back to doing what you love. One of the things that conventional medicine says that, like, you shouldn't really be worried about the side effects of harsh medications, but I'm here to tell you, you should worry about those concerns about harsh medications. I myself was taking a harsh medication to shut down my thyroid from producing its hormone, and I ended up with something called toxic hepatitis, where my liver was it was being attacked by the medication, and it could have failed. I nearly ended up in the hospital, and I nearly had to drop out of medical school. My father, who had been on 3 immunosuppressive drugs for polymyositis, he was getting sick all the time, in and out of the hospital. He finally followed the Myers way. He was able to get off all of his medications for 2 full years, was never in the hospital again until he went back on his medications and ended up in the hospital 6 months later with pneumonia, and he ended up passing away. So this is why I do what I do. Nobody needs to die unnecessarily from complications of autoimmunity, and particularly the medications that the conventional doctors say have no harsh side effects. They absolutely do. They can lead to digestive issues, weight gain, sleep issues, anxiety, depression, even cancer, and of course, infections and even death. So you do want to really be concerned about those medications. Now, I'm not calling supplemental thyroid hormone or life-saving insulin a medication. Those are hormones that you're repleting if there's been enough damage to your organ. So please don't get up in arms about that. Those do not have harmful side effects to them. Those are natural hormones that you're repleting to your body. We're talking about the Humiras and the what I had, which was PTU, and the Cellceps and the prednisone and these types of things. So number 4, you absolutely can manage your symptoms without medication. So the key is really to supporting your immune system rather than suppressing it. So the way that conventional medicine deals with autoimmunity is they assume that it is some external problem, and then they go to the immune system and just try to suppress it. They basically whack it into shape, which doesn't work because you need your immune system. You need your immune system to fight off infections. You need your immune system to support you in your daily life. So this is super duper important. So what we do, it's not that you have an overactive immune system that needs to be suppressed. You have an immune system out of balance. And we can get that back into balance by supporting the immune system rather than suppressing it with dietary and lifestyle changes. Number 5, gut health and digestion do, in fact, have an entirely huge impact on autoimmunity. So you see nearly 60 to 80% of your immune system is located in your gut. And if you have an autoimmune condition, you likely have something going on in your gut. We know through research that leaky gut is a precursor to autoimmunity. There has never been an autoimmune patient in my clinic who hasn't had something going on in their gut. Imbalanced gut flora, their microbiome is not robust. They have candida, they have SIBO, they have a parasite, even without having any digestive issues whatsoever. In fact, most people I see don't have digestive issues. So you can have something going on in your gut that is messing with your immune system and not even have any digestive symptoms whatsoever. Number 6, gluten does, in fact, play a role on autoimmunity and overall health. So there's research showing that gluten has been linked to over 55 diseases. And the way that it contributes to leaky gut is it actually triggers something called zonulin to be released. And when zonulin gets released in the gut, it causes those tight junctions that are sitting together and keeping your gut nice and sealed. It causes them to break apart and stay apart. And what happens then is large molecules that were never meant to get into our bloodstream, because our gut cells are only one cell layer thick, and right below it is our immune system and then our bloodstream. And so what happens is large molecules like gluten that were never intended to get into and be seen by our immune system and then into our bloodstream do. And what happens? Our immune system goes on high alert, attack, foreign invader, and then our immune system goes to attack the gluten. However, there's a process called molecular mimicry. And molecular mimicry is sort of a case of mistaken identity, where our immune system is going to attack that foreign invader, so say gluten, and it inadvertently attacks something else, say our thyroid molecules. Because our thyroid looks so similar to gluten, the immune system gets confused. And that's one of the theories behind autoimmune thyroid conditions. So it's very important to definitely include gluten in terms of knowing its role in autoimmunity. Now, number 7 is that you control your destiny, not your genetics. Your genes are not your destiny. Back in the day when I was growing up and learning about science, we used to think our genes were static. If you had this gene for this disease, you would get it. What we now know is that our genes are not static. They're things that influence them to turn on and influence them to turn off. In fact, there are genetic studies or studies using identical twins looking at autoimmunity. And they've found that 25% of the risk factor towards autoimmunity is genetic, and 75% is environmental. 75% is enormous. And so I love to tell people that you are in control of your destiny, because for the most part, we can control our environment. There's certainly external factors that we don't have control about, but I, of course, talk you through in my program exactly the ones that you can control, which ones are important, and which ones to do your best to control. So there are those environmental factors are really the 5 root causes of autoimmunity in all chronic illness. And what are those? Leaky gut, like we already just talked about, diet, like we've also talked about, toxins, infections, and stress. So it's really important to understand. Now, for one person with, say, rheumatoid arthritis, I could have 3 people with rheumatoid arthritis standing in front of me. And the reason that they have it could be different for each one of them. For one, it could be leaky gut. For somebody else, it could be diet. And for somebody else, it could be stress. For most people, it's actually some combo of all of those. So it's really important to identify what they are for you and to overcome them. And then you are in control of your destiny, not your genetics. And then number 8, our final truth, is that through diet and lifestyle, you can absolutely reverse your autoimmune condition. So one of the things that I like to say is it's not a cure, and it's a reversal of your symptoms. And what does that mean? Remember, we have that spectrum, no inflammation all the way up to autoimmunity. And reversing means that you can work your way back down that spectrum. And reversing means to get your life back, to reduce or eliminate your symptoms. Often, many people are able to reduce or even get rid of all their antibodies. And often people are able to reduce and even get completely off all of their harsh medications. Now remember, supplemental thyroid hormone and insulin are not medications, they're life-saving hormones that you might be repleting. So you may still need those if there's been enough damage to one of those organs. So by working through diet and lifestyle changes, I see it day in and day out. And people have written me from all over the world that have never seen me, I will never meet, and have shared with me their success in reversing their autoimmune condition simply by adopting the Myers Way dietary and lifestyle programs.